Okay, welcome back. We're going to finish up this chapter and see where we go from there. Uh, those of you who picked up on the fact that when we looked at this calculation, I didn't know what I was doing, and same thing here, I will make a confession. You're wrong. I didn't know what I was doing. But you're right. You're right, but you're wrong. Here's what I know. The computers do these calculations for me. What I need to know is when it applies. Well, if you have a charitable contribution in a C corporation, I'm going to have this limitation, and I got to follow the formula, or the computer will follow the formula. I also know that if I have a C corporation owning stock in another C corporation and I'm getting dividends, some amount of it's going to be non-taxable under what's called the dividends received deduction, and the computer will do the calculation. For our class, we're going to need to know what the textbook teaches in regard to it so we can apply it and see what the computers are doing. After the semester, you can forget all about it and let the computers do it, but don't forget the general principle of the limitation on charitable contributions and on the dividends received deduction. Now, before the end of this session, in order to make things continually to be exciting, I'm going to give you a little secret hint about what to do, at least when it comes to charitable contributions, or to think about a tax planning technique when that happens inside a C corporation. After all, this wouldn't be my class if I didn't tell you how to cheat on your taxes. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's do the tape backwards. If I didn't tell you how to plan to reduce your taxes legally. Okay. Moving ahead, we have the fact that corporations have tax brackets. That's cool. The tax brackets go from here to here. After a while, when you get up to the highest bracket, if you were to look at the brackets, and I encourage you to look in your textbook at the brackets or Wikipedia them, you'll see that they flatten out at some point to 34 or 35%, so that large corporations just pay a flat tax. Now, you might say, well, if I got brackets 1, corporation 2, corporation 3, why don't I just split my company up into 3 or more, 5 or more, 6 or more, a whole bunches of corporations in order to push the income into various brackets? That's a great idea, and it would reduce tax overall if we could do that. Sounds too good to be true. That's because it is too good to be true, and controlled group rules come along and basically say the following. If you've got some kind of relationship with another corporation that's a tax-paying corporation and you're a tax-paying corporation, that related, sort of a related party rule, not the parties you've been going to during the break, but a related party rule. You're a parent subsidiary, or you're a brother, sister, or you're a combined group of some sort, and there are definitions of what that is. If you meet the definition, it causes you to be related. Then what happens here is that you can only use one bracket. You only get one bracket to make it fair. But you get to elect how to use that bracket. That's the nice thing. So you could use some of it here, could use some of it here, and you could use some of it here. The result is you get one full bracket, but you can pick and choose which corporations, if you have multiple corporations, will get the use of that bracket. Corporations file Form 1120. Get to know that and love it. Corporations use Schedule M's for their book tax difference descriptions, so we call them Schedule M adjustments. Corporation taxes are generally due 2.5 months after the close of the year. So let's talk about my C corporation. When was it for 2014? When will it be due? And I say, oops, it was due 3/15, and today's already the 20th. So I'm in my trouble. Well, I filed for a 6-month extension, so I got until September 15th. All right, we're going to skip over consolidated tax returns outside the scope of this class. This is a Schedule M1 for small corporations. Check your book to see if it has a illustration of M3 for large corporations. And basically, you should just be familiar with the fact that here it starts with the net income per the books, adds and subtracts a bunch of things to reconcile to the net income for tax. And this gets disclosed. It's part of the schedules of the Form 1120. Estimated taxes, sure enough, corporations pay as they go. Here's the basic rules. Pay in 4 monthly installments, and just like individuals may owe penalty for underpayment of the pay-as-you-go required estimated payments. There is a safe harbor, 100% of the tax liability. This is a safe harbor rule. Individuals have a similar safe harbor rule, but here, unlike individuals, this one does not apply if you had no tax liability in the prior year, in which case you got to go to paying 100% of the current year, and that's your only choice. Large corporations are defined by the amount of taxable income they had in prior 3 years, and if that's the case, they can only use the prior liability for the first quarter. I don't consider that to be too important, so you can probably skip that. Understand how to do estimated payments in a basic level in case we have some multiple choice questions on the exam about that. Here's some these slides give you some examples, so I would pay attention to that. And alternative minimum tax, you don't need to know for this course, just need to know that it exists. The only question I will ask you is there such a thing as AMT for C corporations? And you should say yes. Except, so there is one more thing I could ask, except if you are a small corporation. Small corporations defined here do not have an AMT problem. And the other thing you need to know is that once you no longer meet the test of a small corporation, once you fail, you're subsequent to AMT for all subsequent years, even if your income drops below the $7.5 million. So these are the things, as far as alternative tax, this slide is the slide to know that there is such a thing and what the small corporation exception is and the rule. To do all this, forget it. I don't want to even touch it. If there are people who are alternative minimum tax specialists, my goal with my taxpayer clients is to avoid alternative minimum tax. So all I do is try to avoid it. Okay, and that will end this chapter. So good. So we'll pick up on the next chapter next time.